What's up, guys? Back out here in the shop, getting ready to do some hood rat things with our friends. Actually, I'm just going to do hood rat things by myself. It's just me. Anyways, this is what we're getting into today. We got the old trusty here. This is literally the first performance-ish LS motor I ever built for myself. This thing has been a trooper, and I'm gonna jinx myself. Where's a piece of damn wood? Knock on wood. This thing has been a trooper. It's been in the boost knuckle, obviously. I've said that 100 times, but if you haven't, watched any of the past videos, then you wouldn't know this. This is the first 5.3 LS whatever base performance engine I've built for myself. It is a 3rd gen aluminum 5.3 block. I guess it's considered an L33 block. I don't pay attention to those numbers. The company I work for, we don't use the GM designation when we rebuild these. We have our own part numbers, so I just know what the part number is that we use, so just bear with me. But I'm certain this is considered an L33 5.3 block, and supposedly, from what I'm told by the YouTubes and the Googles, that the L33 block actually originally had like a 4th gen crank and like floater rods and flat top pistons or something. I'm not 100% sure. That's just what I've heard. But I know this one, when I got this one, I bought this block from my work. It was bare. There was nothing in it. We don't do a lot of the aluminum 3rd gen stuff because I believe like the Trailblazers and like the SSR I think uses this style block, and we just don't sell a lot of them, so we don't build a lot of them. So I bought this block fairly cheap. It is a stock internal deal. It's got a stock crank, stock GM 4th gen rods, stock flat top pistons. It was all, relatively brand new stuff. The cam in this thing is a Lunati custom grind monstrosity of a camshaft. We'll get to that in just a second. Obviously head studs. The heads I also got from my work, and if you can tell, there is no numbers on these. These came off of a prototype 6-liter. They had no numbers on them. All the numbers inside the valley underneath the cover are all ground off. I mean, there's no identifying marks anywhere on this head that says what it is, by Google standards. I put some question marks here and everybody loves that. They think that's the funniest shit ever. But I went through, it has Ferrera 2055 intake valves and like a 160 exhaust valve. They're huge. That was definitely overkill. I just had them, so I just used them. It's got stock rockers with a trunnion upgrade. Moose won't shut up. We're gonna beat him. Watch, he's gonna stop as soon as I open the door. What? Are you trying to talk to the peoples? They don't want to know what you have to say. You have to stop cussing. He's such a dork. My favorite. Anyways, back to this. 3rd gen heads, has a crankshaft. There's a camshaft in there. It does have dual springs, titanium retainers, brand I can't remember. Yeah, I don't remember what they were. We'll just say they're Pack, because that's what everybody uses, it seems like. But the cam in this thing, I remember when I built this, I called Lunati, got some of the specs on it. They were really generic with me when I called them. But it was a 227, 231 duration, 619, 622 lift, and I'm pretty sure they told me it was a 111 LSA, or maybe it was a 111 intake centerline. I can't remember. That's why I want to find out, which is why I'm gonna get this on the stand and pull all that rear cover off so I can get the numbers off of it before I get ready to put it in the Gold Dust Ranger here. But the cam was so big, and then with the oversized valves, the heads have been milled quite a bit. I can't remember how much it was off the top of my head right now because it's been 2 years and I've slept since then. But the heads have been milled. Like I said, it's got huge valves in it, and I actually had to cut ginormous valve reliefs in the stock pistons to get some piston and valve clearance. It does have, I used actually 5.3 head gaskets. Everybody runs the LS9 head gaskets, and I don't know why. It drives me insane when everybody's like, oh, they're the best gasket out there. In my opinion, you know, these people do these boosted motors like this, and they take a 5.3 and then they go and put an LS9 head gasket on it, and they think it's going to be, you know, it's going to be the truth about keeping heads on these things and stop blowing head gaskets. But in all reality, my honest opinion of what I think the deal is with that is they buy these 5.3s and they have 10.5 to 1 compression or 10 to 1 compression, and they blow a head gasket, lift the head, whatever the case may be. So they pull the head, put head studs in it, and they go to this LS9 gasket. You have to take into consideration the 5.3 has a 3.780 bore, and the LS9 is like 4.100. At least on the gasket, I think it's 4.100. Think about that. 3.780, you have a hole this big in the gasket to 4.100. So you have this huge void. Basically, I wish I had a gasket here to show you. Actually, I've got I believe this is a 5.3, oh, good grief, I can't talk. 5.3, 5.7, HO, whatever, shenanigans. And I don't remember what this is off the top of my head, but knowing that it fits a 5.7, you know, and 5.7s are 3.900-ish or 3.890 or something like that. I don't know because I bore them all day long. I don't ever use anything that's standard. But if you put this, let's just say we're going to draw a generic picture here. I'm going to get my pen out. Okay. So you got this bore here on this gasket, which is obviously a little bit larger diameter than the actual bore on the block. Okay, so we'll do that. This is the piston, you know, and then obviously you'll have a little bit of a gap here between it and the gasket. For whatever reason, if you decided that you wanted to stretch a rod or something like that, you wouldn't necessarily come up and clip the gasket, you know, whatever, they do that for a reason, and that's good. But then you want to take, obviously this is 3.900-ish, but then you take a gasket that's 3.400 or 4.100 that's got a bore, you know. I'm really good at drawing circles. This is just, you know, just a rough idea. Then you get a gasket that has this much bigger bore on it than what you're shooting for. You have this void right here, in my opinion, that just fills up with gas and compression and boost and all that shit. You know, you go from this to that, and obviously that's going to drop compression. And the way my dumb brain works is the reason these guys are putting these in there and their motors are living now because this gasket. No, it's just because you drop the compression now and your shitty tune is just good enough now that it's not going to blow the head gasket out of this thing. That's my opinion, but, you know, whatever. That was just a little food for thought. That's just my brain, my thinkicles here. But anyways, that's the motor. It's been a great little motor. I could tell you the ring gaps and all that stuff, but that's a secret. You know, it's an ancient Chinese secret. You know, it's standard. If I remember right, I think I put all standard GM bearings in it. You know, I just kept it as it's a stock bottom end. This thing is stock as stock gets. You know what some of these guys do. I should have gapped the rings a little bit more than I did. The gaps are bigger than like your normal stock motor would be, you know, junkyard dog. Well, you get a junkyard dog and they're completely wore out. The 5.3 that I just did for my buddy Garrett, they were actually, the ring gaps on that thing were 24 on the top ring and 28 on the second ring, which honestly is pretty good, which is more than likely probably why the tune that I did on that car didn't explode a piston, because it probably should have. But this one is actually tighter than that. I would have liked this to be a little bit bigger, and part of me thought about pulling the heads off of it, pulling the rods and pistons out of it, but at this point I don't plan on boosting this. I just plan on throwing this in the truck and you know, just doing it NA, just rolling with it, and maybe down the road at some point, if I get antsy, I'll throw a turbo on it, maybe try and keep it around 6 or 7 horsepower, or 6 or 700 horsepower, and maybe we'll do something with it then. Maybe I'll take it out and put a different motor in it, who knows, but I don't want to blow this one up. I want this is my favorite little engine. But yeah, so we're going to get this up in the air, get the rear cover off of it, take some notes on the cam that is inside this thing, and then we're going to bolt the motor to the transmission and wait for these engine mounts to come in so we can throw this thing in the truck. Alright, so I got it generically kind of hung on there. That'll hold for sure. Yep, that one too. Yeah, oh, that's good, solid. We'll let it rip. We're going to get this thing hoisted up here. Y'all want to watch this? Damn it, it's dirty. I'm back. Damn it, it's still dirty. Much better. This is so boring. $5 says this falls. The GoPro. Hopefully not the engine. Give her the old Judy chop. Oh yeah. Man. That was almost scary to put so much force into that. Man. Alright, we need to take this off there. And get that done. I'll spin the motor around. I know that probably looks pretty scary. It's kind of intimidating. We may end up fixing that for whenever we put the training in. I think that's a lot of weight for that one little bolt. You see that? It's a little 10mm bolt. It's probably not 10mm. It's probably actually like 6mm, but it's got 10mm head on it. Don't do this at home, otherwise you'll end up like a broken engine. Yeah, let me get that off there. Let's see if my little tool here, pop this off. Boom. There it is. Okay, now I'm going to take a picture of this so I can have the numbers here. That way I can call Lunati Monday or whatever and get some info on this. Alright, and the little trick that we do at my work and stuff with these is dirty. We'll go through, and on the back of the cover here, just for whatever reason, we'll write down the cam specs and all that stuff on it. So I'm going to go ahead and write what I do know. Lunati, and then 227, 232, and 619. The 9 looks like crap, and 622. I believe, so it's got their numbers and all this stuff on it, which I think I remember how to look that up on their site, but it says 111 on here, so I think it is a 111 LSA, depending on how they put their info on here. I should have vacuumed that off. I got a bunch of grime on here, but I'm gonna suck that off real quick. I'm gonna vacuum that off real quick. Yeah, I'm gonna clean this cover back off down here where I had the silicone, and then I'll put a little dab of silicone there in that crack right where I put this cover back on, and we'll put it back on and get this tranny bolted to it. Alright, so put a little dab of silicone on the corners there. I'm going to go through and suck these down a little. I'm not going to tighten them. We're just going to get them down to the cover just a little, or get them a little closer to the cover here. I'll go through and click tight, torque them down real quick. I believe these are, oh, that's too much. I believe they're 22 foot-pounds, something like that. It's either 18 or 22. 18 won't hold it, 22 won't either. So, I got the rear cover and everything back on, and got the transmission just kind of bolted up to the motor just for test fitting purposes. So now all we're doing, as soon as the Dirty Dingo mounts come in here in a couple, 2 or 3 days, we'll get those bolted on, get the Ranger inside, and we'll attempt to try and test fit this thing, and fingers crossed. Hopefully everything fits, and hopefully I can get a pretty good idea as far as how the exhaust is going to have to work for this thing, and we'll just keep rolling with it. But thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget, comment, like, subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you guys later.